John Anthony Baldessari is an American conceptual artist known for his work featuring found photography and appropriated images. He lives and works in Santa Monica and Venice, California. Initially a painter, Baldessari began to incorporate texts and photography into his canvases in the mid-1960s. In 1970 he began working in printmaking, film, video, installation, sculpture and photography. He has created thousands of works that demonstrate and, in many cases, the narrative potential of images and the associative power of language within the boundaries of the work of art. His art has been featured in more than 200 solo exhibitions in the US and Europe. His work influenced Cindy Sherman, David Salle, Annette Lemieux, and Barbara Kruger among others. Education, 1949-53 BA, San Diego State College, California, 1954-55 University of California, Berkeley. 1955 University of California, Los Angeles, 1955-57 MA, San Diego State College, California, 1957-59 Otis Art Institute, Los Angeles. Chouinard Art Institute, Los Angeles. Early life and career, Baldessari was born in National City, California to Hedvig Jensen, a Danish nurse, and Antonio Baldessari, an Italian salvage dealer. Baldessari and his elder sister were raised in Southern California. He attended Sweetwater High School and San Diego State College. Between 1960 and 1984, he was married to Montessorian teacher Carol Ann Ixom. They have 2 children. In 1959, Baldessari began teaching art in the San Diego school system. He kept teaching for nearly 3 decades, in schools and junior colleges and community colleges, and eventually at the university level. When the University of California decided to open up a campus in San Diego, the new head of the visual art department, Paul Brach, asked Baldessari to be part of the originating faculty in 1968. At UCSD he shared an office with David Antin. In 1970, Baldessari moved to Santa Monica, where he met many artists and writers, and began teaching at Cal Arts. His first classes included David Salle, Jack Goldstein, Mike Kelly, Tony Udsler, James Welling, Barbara Bloom, Matt Mullican, and Troy Brauntuch. While at Cal Arts, Baldessari taught the infamous post-studio class, which he intended to indicate people not daubing away at canvases or chipping away at stone, that there might be some other kind of class situation. The class, which operated outside of medium specificity, was influential in informing the context for addressing a student's art practice at Cal Arts. He quit teaching at Cal Arts in 1986, moving on to teach at UCLA, which he continued until 2008. At UCLA, his students included Elliot Hundley and Analia Sabin. Work and themes. Early text paintings. By 1966, Baldessari was using photographs and text, or simply text, on canvas. His early major works were canvas paintings that were empty but for painted statements derived from contemporary art theory. An early attempt of Baldessari's included the hand-painted phrase "Suppose it is true after all? What then?" on a heavily worked painted surface. However, this proved personally disappointing because the form and method conflicted with the objective use of language that he preferred to employ. Baldessari decided the solution was to remove his own hand from the construction of the image and to employ a commercial, lifeless style so that the text would impact the viewer without distractions. The words were then physically lettered by sign painters, in an unornamented black font. The first of this series presented the ironic statement, "A two-dimensional surface without any articulation is a dead experience." Another work, Painting for Cupola, presented the viewer theoretical instructions on how to view it and on the importance of context and continuity with previous works. This work referenced art historian George Cupola's seminal book, The Shape of Time, Remarks on the History of Things. The seemingly legitimate art concerns were intended by Baldessari to become hollow and ridiculous when presented in such a purely self-referential manner. Disowning of early work. In 1970, Baldessari and 5 friends burnt all of the paintings he had created between 1953 and 1966 as part of a new piece, titled The Cremation Project. The ashes from these paintings were baked into cookies and placed into an urn, and the resulting art installation consists of a bronze commemorative plaque with the destroyed paintings' birth and death dates, as well as the recipe for making the cookies. Through the ritual of cremation, Baldessari draws a connection between artistic practice and the human life cycle. Thus the act of disavowal becomes generative, as with the work of auto-destructive artist Jean Tingley. Juxtaposing text with images. Baldessari is best known for works that blend photographic materials, take them out of their original context and rearrange their form, often including the addition of words or sentences. Related to his early text paintings were his Wrong series, which paired photographic images with lines of text from an amateur photography book, aiming at the violation of a set of basic rules on snapshot composition. In one of the works, Baldessari had himself photographed in front of a palm precisely so that it would appear that the tree were growing out of his head. His photographic California map project created physical forms that resembled the letters in California geographically near to the very spots on the map that they were printed. In the binary code series, Baldessari used images as information holders by alternating photographs to stand in for the on-off state of binary code. One example alternated photos of a woman holding a cigarette parallel to her mouth and then dropping it away. Another of Baldessari's series juxtaposed an image of an object such as a glass, or a block of wood, and the phrase "a glass is a glass," or wood is wood combined with, "but a cigar is a good smoke," and the image of the artist smoking a cigar. These directly refer to Rena copyright Magritte's The Treachery of Images. The images similarly were used to stand in for the objects described. However, the series also apparently refers to Sigmund Freud's famous attributed observation that sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, as well as to Rudyard Kipling's a woman is only a woman, but a good cigar is a smoke. In Double Bill, a 2012 series of large inkjet prints, Baldessari paired the work of 2 selected artists on a single canvas, further altering the appropriated picture plane by overlaying his own hand-painted color additions. Baldessari then names only one of his 2 artistic collaborators on each canvas unregistered trademark S lower edge, such as and Manet or and Dutch Hamp. Arbitrary games. Baldessari has expressed that his interest in language comes from its similarities in structure to games, as both operate by an arbitrary and mandatory system of rules. In this spirit, many of his works are sequences showing attempts at accomplishing an arbitrary goal, such as throwing 3 balls in the air to get a straight line, in which the artist attempted to do just that, photographing the results, and eventually selecting the best out of 36 tries, with 36 being the determining number just because that is the standard number of shots on a roll of 35mm film. The writer Eldridge Priest ties John Baldessari's piece Throwing 4 Balls in the Air to Get a Square as an early example of post-conceptual art. This work was published in 1973 by a young Italian publisher, Giampaolo Priero, that was one of the first to believe and invest in the work of Baldessari. He printed 2 series, one in 2,000 copies and a second more precious reserved to the publisher in 500 copies. Following Baldessari unregistered trademark S seminal statement I will not make any more boring art he conceived the work The Artist Hitting Various Objects with a Golf Club, composed of 30 photographs of the artist swinging and hitting with a golf club objects excavated from a dump, as a parody of cataloguing rather than a thorough straight classification. Pointing. Much of Baldessari's work involves pointing, in which he tells the viewer not only what to look at but how to make selections and comparisons, often simply for the sake of doing so. Baldessari's commission paintings series took the idea of pointing literally, after he read a criticism of conceptual art that claimed it was nothing more than pointing. Beginning with photos of a hand pointing at various objects, Baldessari then hired amateur yet technically adept artists to paint the pictures. He then added a caption, "A painting by," painter's name to each finished painting. In this instance, he has been likened to a choreographer, directing the action while having no direct hand in it, and these paintings are typically read as questioning the idea of artistic authorship. The amateur artists have been analogized to sign painters in this series, chosen for their pedestrian methods that were indifferent to what was being painted. Baldessari critiques formalist assessments of art in a segment from his video How We Do Art Now, entitled Examining 3/8D Nails, in which he gives obsessive attention to minute details of the nails, such as how much rust they have, or descriptive qualities such as which appears cooler, more distant, less important than the others. Books Choosing, Green Beans. Milan, Edizioni Toselli, Angra and Other Parables. Texts in English, French, German, and Italian. London, Studio International Publications, Throwing Three Balls in the Air to Get a Straight Line. Milan, Giampaolo Priero Editore SRL. And Galleria Toselli, For Events and Reactions. Florence, Centro D. And Paris, Galerie Sonnabend. Throwing a Ball Once to Get 3 Melodies and 15 Chords, John Baldessari, 1973. Berkeley, California, Regents of the University of California. And Irvine, California, Art Gallery, University of California at Irvine, Brutus Killed Caesar. Akron, Ohio, Emily H. Davis Art Gallery, University of Akron. In cooperation with Sonnabend Gallery, New York, and Ohio State University, Columbus, Ohio. Fable, A Sentence of 13 Parts Ending in Fable Hamburg, West Germany, Anatole Avenue and Film Production, Close Crop Tales. CEPA Gallery and Albrecht Euronox Art Gallery, Buffalo, New York, 1981. The Life and Opinions of Tristram Shandy. Images by John Baldessari, text by Lawrence Stern, Orion Press, San Francisco, CA. The Telephone Book. Gent, Belgium, Imshoot, Witjevers for IC. Lamb. Images by John Baldessari, story by Meg Cranston. Valencia, Spain, IVAM Center Julio González, Zorro. Octagon Verlag, Cologne, Germany. The Metaphor Problem Again. Collaboration with Lawrence Weiner. Inktree Kunstnacht and My 35 Gallery Zurich, Switzerland. Brown and Green and Other Parables. Reykjavik, Iceland, I8 and Reykjavik Art Museum, Iceland, 2001. Yours and Food, John Baldessari, with Meditations on Eating by Paul Auster, John Baldessari, David Byrne, Dave Eggers, David Gilbert, Tim Griffin, Andy Grindberg, John Haskell, Michael Moore, Glenn O. Euro Unregistered Trademark Brian, Francine Prose, Peter Schledal, Lynn Tildman. New York, Princeton Architectural Press, 2004. The Metaphor Problem Again, a conversation moderated by Beatrix Roof. Heidelberg, Germany, Springer Verlag, 2006. Transcription of a conversation with John Baldessari, Liam Gillick, Lawrence Weiner, Beatrix Roof, and Christina Bettler. Prima facie, Marilyn a Euro Unregistered Trademark S-Dress, a Poem. Cologne, Verlag der Buchhandlung Walther K. Paragraph Nig, 2006. Again The Metaphor Problem and Other Engaged Critical Discourses About Art, a conversation between John Baldessari, Liam Gillick and Lawrence Weiner, moderated by Beatrix Roof. Vienna and New York, Springer Wien New York, 2007. John Baldessari, Alejandro Sissako, Retrospective. Cologne, Verlag der Buchhandlung Walther K. Paragraph Nig, 2007. Collaborative work with Alejandro Sissako. John Baldessari, Cohen van den Broek, This an Example of That. Gemienteplein, BKSM, 2008. Collaborative work with Cohen van den Broek. Pars. Zurich, JRP Ringier, 2010. Artista Euro Unregistered Trademark S book version of the Ringier Annual Report 2009 project. Prints Baldessari began making prints in the early 1970s and continues to produce editions today. He created his first print I Will Not Make Any More Boring Art, as an addition to raise funds for the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, Halifax. The lithograph was created in conjunction with the now-renowned exhibition for which at Baldessari unregistered trademark S request students endlessly wrote the phrase OE I will not make any more boring art on the gallery walls. The artist has since worked internationally with premier publishers including Orion Press of San Francisco, Brooke Alexander Editions of New York, Cirrus Editions of Los Angeles, Crown Point Press of San Francisco, Edition Jacob Samuel of Santa Monica, Gemini GEL of Los Angeles, Mixographia of Los Angeles, Multiples, Incorporated of New York, and Peter Bloom Editions of New York. His 1988 prints, The Fallen Easel and Object, represented a major shift in Baldessari unregistered trademark S approach to presentation, allowing a more complex relationship between his found imagery. In both prints, Baldessari expertly contrasts unrelated photographs to suggest a mysterious and/or ominous undercurrent. In the 1990s Baldessari began working with Mixographia Workshop to create three-dimensional prints utilizing their unique process of printing from metal molds. Baldessari unregistered trademark S interest in dimensionality has carried over to recent editions from Gemini GEL, including the Person with Guitar series and the print series Noses and Ears, etc., in which screen-printed images are constructed in 3 layers on cintra with hand painting. A 2007 publication from Gemini is God Knows, a cast aluminum piece that is designed to hang from the ceiling. Baldessari also contributed to the 2008 Artists for Obama portfolio, a set of prints in a limited edition of 150 published by Gemini GEL. Performance and film originally conceived in 1970, unrealized proposal for CADA. The piece would have visitors look through a peephole and see a dead male body laid out with its feet towards them inside a climate-controlled vitrine, made to resemble Andrea Mantovano unregistered trademark S painting, The Lamentation over the Dead Christ. Hans Ulrich Obrist, the co-director of London unregistered trademark S Serpentine Gallery, and Klaus Weissenbach, the director of MoMA PS1, first attempted to realize Baldessari unregistered trademark S idea in 2011, and the resulting paperwork of failed attempts to procure a willing male cadaver was displayed in the exhibition 11 Rooms at the Manchester International Festival. Baldessari's film Police Drawing documents a 1971 performance, Police Drawing Project. In this piece, the artist walked into a class of art students who had never seen him, set up a video camera to document the proceedings, and left the room. Subsequently, a police artist entered and, based on the students' testimony, sketched a likeness of the artist. In the black-and-white video I Am Making Art, Baldessari stands facing the camera. For nearly 20 minutes, he strikes and then holds various poses crossing his arms over his chest or swinging one arm out to one side or pointing directly at the lens, for example and with each new gesture, he states I am making art. In a 1972 tribute to fellow artist Sol LeWitt, Baldessari sang lines from LeWitt's 35 Statements on Conceptual Art to the tune of popular songs. Other films include Teaching a Plant the Alphabet and the Inventory videos, also from 1972. A riff on his 1977 color video 6 Colorful Inside Jobs. In 13 Colorful Inside Jobs, a room is repainted by a performer in a different color every day for the duration of the exhibition, carefully following the instructions of the artist. Quotes, If I saw the art around me that I liked, then I will unregistered trademark do art. I will not make any more boring art. Exhibitions. Baldessari has been in over 200 solo shows and 1,000 group shows in his 6-decade career. He had his first gallery solo exhibition at the Molly Barnes Gallery in Los Angeles in 1968. His first retrospective exhibition in the U.S. in 1981 was mounted by the New Museum of Contemporary Art in New York, and traveled to the Contemporary Arts Center, Cincinnati, the CAM, Houston, the Van Apper Museum, Eindhoven, and the Museum Folkwang, Essen. His work has since been exhibited in Documenta V&7, the Whitney Biennial, the Carnegie International, the 47th Venice Biennial. Solo presentations of his work at museums have included exhibitions at the Albertina, Vienna, Sprengel Museum, Hanover, Museo d'Arte Moderna Contemporanea di Trento e Rovere II, Trento, Museum Moderner Kunststiftung Ludwig Wien, the Kunsthaus Graz, and Deutsche Guggenheim Berlin. Retrospectives of his work was shown at MOCA, Los Angeles, which traveled to SFMOMA, the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden, the Whitney Museum and the Musée Copyright de Contemporain, Montreal in 1990-92. At Corner House, Manchester, and travelled to London, Stuttgart, Ljubljana, Oslo, and Lisbon in 1995-96 entitled This Not That. And Pure Beauty opened at the Tate Modern, London, in 2009 and travelled to MACBA, Barcelona, LACMA, Los Angeles, and the Metropolitan Museum of Art, New York, through 2011. There was an artist's choice, John Baldessari at the Museum of Modern Art in 1994, and the artist was invited to curate the exhibition Ways of Seeing. John Baldessari explores the collection at the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden in 2006, and he created the exhibition design for Magritte and Contemporary Art, The Treachery of Images at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art. Collections. Baldessari's works are part of major public and private collections, including the Museum of Modern Art, the Guggenheim Museum, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden and the Broad Collection. Recognition. Baldessari has been the recipient of numerous awards, among others, 1988 Guggenheim Fellowship, 1996 Oscar Kokoschka Prize, Austria, 1997 Governora Euro Unregistered Trademark S Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Visual Arts, California, 1999 Spectrum International Award for Photography of the Foundation of Lower Saxony, Germany, College Art Association's Lifetime Achievement Award, 2000 Artist Space, New York, 2002 a Euro OE Best Web-Based Original Art, a Euro AICA USA Best Show Awards, 2001/2002 season. Los Angeles Institute for the Humanities Fellow, sponsored by the University of Southern California, 2003 a Euro A Second Place Best Show Commercial Gallery National by U.S. Art Critics Association for exhibit at Margot Levin, 2003, 2004 Fellow of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, 2005 Lifetime Achievement Award, Americans for the Arts, New York, October 11, 2005, Rolex Mentor and Proto Copyright GA Copyright Arts Initiative, honoring, New York, November 7, 2005. 2006 Certificate of Recognition, the Los Angeles Convention and Visitors Bureau, Los Angeles, California, 2009 Golden Lion Lifetime Achievement, 53rd International Art Exhibition Venice Biennale, Venice, Italy, 2011 Honorary, LACMA Art Plus Film Gala, Los Angeles, November 5, 2011. 2012 Goslehrer Kaisering, Germany, 2015 Honorary, Museum of Contemporary Art, Los Angeles, May 31, 2015. In 2013, the California Institute of the Arts opened its John Baldessari Art Studio building, which features approximately 7,000 square feet of space, much of it used as studio space for art students and faculty. Position in the art market. Baldessari set a personal auction record when his acrylic on canvas piece quality material was sold for $4,408,000 at Christie's New York in 2007. In 1972, Ilyana Sonnabend agreed to represent him worldwide. In 1999, after 26 years with the Sonnabend Gallery, Baldessari went to Marion Goodman. He is also represented by Margot Levin, Los Angeles, and Sproul 1/4 Th Magars, Berlin, London. References. Bibliography, Eisenberg, Barbara. State of the Arts, California Artists Talk About Their Work 2005, interview with Fabian Steck in Annual Magazine No. 5, 2012 pages 143-146. External links, baldessari.org, John Baldessari Artist Biography on Electronic Arts Intermix, Baldessari's Your Name in Lights at Stedelijk Museum, John Baldessari Catalogue Raisonner Copyright, John Baldessari at Brooke Alexander Gallery, Interview with John Baldessari by Moira Rath in XTRA Contemporary Art Quarterly, UCLA Art Faculty page, John Baldessari, New York Times Eli Broad Collection, John Baldessari and the Video Data Bank. John Baldessari, Pictures and Scripts at Marion Goodman Gallery by art critic Kostas Prapagala, April, 2015. John Baldessari, Cut to the Chase by Leslie Dick, East of Bonio, November 1, 2010. John Baldessari at the Museum of Modern Art, John Baldessari on Artabase, The Uncertainty Principle. Communication and Ambiguity in the Work of John Baldessari. Interview with John Baldessari for Radio Web MACBA, John Baldessari on Pure Beauty, a retrospective exhibition at the Museum of Contemporary Art of Barcelona, John Baldessari, artist on KCET Departures Venice, Calvin Tompkins, No More Boring Art, The New Yorker, October 18, 2010, John Baldessari at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, The New Yorker. John Baldessari, A Euro OEI Am Making Art a Euro, 1971, Oral History Interview with John Baldessari, 1992 April 4–5 from the Smithsonian Archives of American Art, Tate, John Baldessari, Pure Beauty. The artist talks about his practice. October 21, 2009, John Baldessari Exhibit Catalog Wright State University Score, A Brief History of John Baldessari, John Baldessari at Catalyst Art Foundation, John Baldessari Capsule Image Collection.